good? What's good? I'll start off by giving all praises to the Most High Yahweh. We do so by the I can't talk. It's like the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, I know you see the title says, "What about Adam and Eve and the giants and Cain and Abel too?" Right? So, I wanted to get into this topic because that's another misunderstanding that a lot of us have concerning the creation story and how everything else after that came to be, and that can be a stumbling block for a lot of people if they not you know if they don't have the proper understanding on how to break it down. And we gotta remember too, like the point that I've been trying to hammer home is that this book is written by our people, and we talk in slang, or we use different phrases or phraseology to explain what we're trying to say. You know, like I use example of like how many different ways we got to say money. We call it bread, cheese, cheddar, whatever, right? So Genesis is like very allegorical. It's a true story, but it's told in an allegorical form, just like how we talk with each other. We might be talking, and all of a sudden we might say woo woo woo. The person you're talking to, even though you didn't get into detail, but you said woo woo woo, they understand. But so we talking allegorical. So let's get into it, right? So let's start off from the beginning. This Genesis 1:1, right? So like I said, so we gotta understand that it's not all that, because the church would make it so mystifying and spooky, where to the point that it's make it, a little bit unbelievable. But we're going to get a little more understanding. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? So now, when you get into that, in the beginning now, that's like one sentence, but it's a lot of history in that, And let's get, we're going to get, let's go back. We're going to get, John 1:1 real quick, right? So go to John 1:1. Because like I said, it's a lot of history and like I said, so in the church they're not going to break it down like that. They're just going to read certain verses and give you a doctrine what they learned in that seminary school, right? So now check it out, John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So now let's say, so now when we read this, we always end up forget what we learned in English or in grammar. So it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, you know, and the Word was God. So now a lot of people will get hung up on that part that says the Word was God, and the Word was with God. But you got to remember that it says it was with God, meaning a separate entity. But the church will teach it like it was, they the same. But that's a whole nother discussion. But so it says the Word was with God, right? So in the beginning, that's what it was. So it was, who we call Yahweh Shai was in that beginning doing the creation. And then we get into let's go to was that Colossians where we at Colossians 1 and what's that, Colossians 1:17, I think. That was a lot here. Yeah, excuse me real quick. Yeah, that's the one. All right, so Colossians 1:15. So it says, "Who is the invisible image of God, the firstborn of every creature?" So in the beginning was the Word, and He's the firstborn of all everything that is created. Then then God used Him to create everything else after that. So it's just like you have a boss, or you know like a owner of the company. So the owner of the company will hire a manager to run the company. Then the manager will hire employees to do the work. So that's the same thing. So you got God, the boss, Yahushua, the manager running the company, and the angels being the workers doing the work. So that's how it breaks down, right? So now let's get back to Genesis 1. So, so it says, and the earth was without form and void. So now it being without, the earth being without form and void, meaning like the matter, the earth, was like, shapeless, and the darkness, being, like the matter of it, right? And it says, and the spirit of the Lord and the spirit of God move upon the face of the waters. So, because now it'll tell you that the earth was, he had set the earth in the midst of the waters, So now, but it's, without shape, without form and stuff, it's just like a lump of clay or whatever. So, and it says, and God said, let there be light, and it was light. Oh, but yeah, back to let me hammer this home before I continue too. Like, and when it says that the word was God, so now you have you know, different, because like it's different, because different power, because the word God just means power. So you have the Most High God, then you have the gods, like the angels, or even us as Israelites, we call it, gods in the Bible. So the word God just means power. So, so when it says the word was God, it's meaning he was a power, and because it also tells you in Colossians that he was the firstborn, right? So he couldn't, be eternal if he was the firstborn. So, all right, now back to it. So, and God saw the light, right? And God said, let it be light, and there were light, and there was light, right? So now that light is what scientists would call that bioluminescence, right? That first light, the light that we can't see, but that light that's invisible, but that causes everything, everything else to be visible, because now, because we just got from, him moving his, face upon the deep, and now he creating light, right? But like I said, it's that invisible light, right? So it says, but like the Christian church, they get confused at that because in the Christian church, they don't know because, like, they'll tell you that it's two different lights, but I mean, they'll tell you that it's the same light. I mean, excuse me, they'll tell you that's the same light, or they won't be able to explain the two different lights that's being created here in this first chapter. So it says, and God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and the darkness was the matter, the earth matter, right? And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So now it'll tell you that, like, up there in the firmament, which would be the sky, or the third heaven, it's water up there. And even scientists, NASA, will tell you there's a lot of water up there. So, but he put like a blockage to separate, the water that was, up there from the water that was, that was containing, in the earth, right? So I'm gonna jump down to 14. It says, and God said, let there be. So now this is the second time. So I'm saying that the pastor, they're not gonna break this down, or they don't have to break down. So it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament. So we just read a few verses earlier that he said, let there be light. But I explained to you that's that invisible light that bioluminescent lights, those different ultraviolet colors that we can't see with the naked eye, unless we got like a special, scope or whatever, right? So it says, God said, let there be light in the firmament. So now the firmament is the sky that we can see and look up and see the stars and the sun and the moon and all that cool stuff. We can see that. So it says, so let there be light in the heavens and divide the day from the night, right? So now it's talking about dividing the day and the night. The first time we read about the lights being created, and then talk about dividing the day and the night, it just talk about separating the light from the matter, right? So then It says, and God made two great lights, and a greater light to rule the day, and a lesser light to rule the night. Right. So now we're getting into the sun and the moon. Right. So and oh yeah, do yeah. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day over and overnight, and divided the night from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning was the fourth day. So now we see that the sun and the moon was created on the fourth day, right? But we read about lights being created was that on the first day. So, like I said, so they say science is not in the Bible, or science and the Bible don't have no connection. But even a scientist will tell you, the people that study, space and astrophysics and all that cool stuff, they'll tell you about these different invisible lights, that we can't see, that exists out in the universe and around us and stuff like that. And so we're gonna jump down to 24, right? So Genesis 1 and 24. And it says, in the earth, and God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping beasts of the earth, and after his kind it was so. So now when you get into the Hebrew of when you get into the Hebrew word of living creature is soul. So this is telling you that man, not people, was created in a boom together. It wasn't just Adam and Eve. Because like I said, when you get into the Hebrew, because that's why you got to get like, you know, it might sound like all extra, but you got to get like a Bible dictionary, a lexicon, and all that stuff, and break these words down and see what it was meant. Because this was written in Hebrew, but we're reading it in English, so we got to know how it was written, originally stated, right? So now it says creature. So, but in church, they will, most people is under the assumption that it's just Adam and Eve. But here we can see that it was created, you know, in a influx, right? And it says, and God made the beasts of the earth and of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after his of his kind, and every creeping thing upon the earth which he saw which was good, right? So now this is the part two. So we get the misunderstanding. So it says, and God said, let us. People get caught up on let us. Let us. God said, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness, right? So now that us is the angels, Christ, Yahweh Shai, and the angels. But like I said, Christ would be the manager and the angels is the workers. And they putting all this stuff together under the management of the Most High God, Yahweh. So they're doing all this curation. So when they say, let us make man in our image, what they saying is that let us give man dominion over the planet, over the earth. It's not like image like, all right, 6'2", or make them like 180 pounds, or this person gonna have long hair. It wasn't talking about image like that. It was talking about image like as far as like our common sense, our ability to outthink animals. Like if you're running from a lion, that lion has an instinct to kill, but we have an intelligence to trap that lion and eventually put it in a zoo. That bear that's trying to get you, you can, somewhat outsmart that bear, if for the most part, or any animal for the most part, or else we won't have zoos, right? So that's the image. The image is our ability to take instructions and to understand things and to reason. We have that capability of reasoning. You can't reason with a lion. If a lion is hungry, he's gonna eat you. But with a person, if they're upset, you can talk to them, you can reason with them. So we have that capability. So that's what it means by in His image, right? And when it says "let us," because the angels are able to take instructions and receive instructions from the Most High. Because it tells you in Psalms and Proverbs that the angels follow every commandment of God. Every you know order that He does. put out perfectly, right? So now it says, let us make man in our own image, and let us give him dominion over the fish and the seas and the fowls of the and the cattle of the earth, right? So, like I said, so it's getting into like like how I just explained, like far as that's what the image is. The image is us having dominion, rulership over these animals, the plants, the fact that we can, you know, have mastery of agriculture. We can, build up civilizations and all this different stuff. We we have intelligence, right? For the lack of a better word. Excuse me. So I'm jump down to go to 27 and yeah, I'm gonna jump down to 31 and God saw everything. No, So I'm gonna go to 27. So God created man in His own image, and the image God created him, male and female. He created them, and God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, and subdue and replenish the earth and subdue it." Right now, two people cannot subdue the earth. So if it was only just Adam and Eve, how we were led to believe, God can't tell two people to subdue the earth. Two people can't build a city. It take you know groups and groups of people and lots of man labor to build up a city or civilization. They can't do that. Two people can't just be fruitful and multiply on the earth because after a while a woman can only have so many years in her life that she can have children. So that's not possible that two people did that. So that's why it tells you on the what's that the fifth day I believe that he created influx of people, a boom of people. It wasn't just Adam and Eve. So we're gonna get more into that. So then it says 30. I'm gonna jump down to 31. And God saw that everything that He did and made, um, everything that He had made, and behold, it was good. And everything that morning was the sixth day. So He did all of that in the sixth day, right? So now let's jump to we're gonna jump to Revelation real quick, right? Revelation 4:7. Because He created all this stuff and He said it was good. And and he did this because because it's for his purpose. It's his show, it's his movie. We just out here, doing our part, whatever, right? So this 4:11. It says, "Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things for thy pleasure, they were and were created." So everything God created within those 6 days is for His pleasure. Everything that we see today is all for His pleasure, whether it's good, bad, evil, whatever. It's all for His pleasure. He created it. So we're gonna jump down to we're gonna go to jump to chapter 2 and 7, right? So now, like I says, another misconception, right? So it says, and God formed man out of the dust, right? So now we're getting so now in church they will tell you that, oh, it's two creation stories, or people that have a bad understanding of the Bible, they will say, oh well, it looked like God is making man twice. But like I said, this is Hebraics, and they're talking in slang. This whole book is written in slang. It's a true story, but it's written in slang. Just like how black people, when I mean black people, I'm talking about us, how we talk in slang. This is our book. It was written by our people, and this is how we talk. So just understand what they're trying to say. So it says, the Lord formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man become a living soul. So now that dust is a low state. Because remember, in my previous video, we was talking about heaven and hell. And one of the verses I brought out is being in the dust is like being in a low state, being at the bottom of society, or being looked upon bad, or being the outcast. That's being in the dust. So this man Adam was, at the low of society. He wasn't like a man that people would look to and be like, oh, let's follow him. He was, at the low. So that's what it was out of the dust. Because we already read on the fifth day, he created uh, people already. I mean the sixth. He created people already. So let's go to we're gonna go to Psalms, right, to prove this, right? Go to Psalms. Matter of fact, just go to First Samuel. Um, oh shit, dang, go chair messing up on. Go to First Samuel. That First Samuel in 2, right? Excuse me. I was trying to. First Samuel's in 2 and 8. So So it says, He raised up the poor out of the dust and lift the beggar out of the dunghill. So a poor person is in the dust because the poor person is at the bottom of society. They not look at as, a man to be respected. If a poor person talk, nobody pay attention, but a rich man speak, everybody listen, right? So it says, He raises up a poor out of the dust and lift up the beggar from the dunghill and set him among princes. So that's what happened with Adam. Adam was, for the lack of better terms, he was, poor in spirit, poor, you know, and, in his way of life and understanding. And God gave him that understanding by lifting him out of the dust, giving him that knowledge, for he can be, set among top and be the prince, So it says, He raises up the poor out of the dust and lifts the beggar out of the dunghill and set them among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and He has set the world upon them. Meaning God does what He wants. Meaning God can take anybody, whether they have been a criminal their whole life, and pick them up and raise them up to do something great. You know what I'm saying? So that's the same thing what He did with Adam when you read that He formed man out of the dust. But our understanding is that it's a whole nother creation. But no, that's let's get furthermore, let's get First Kings First Kings 6 and 16, right? So it says, "For much as I exalted thee out of the dust and made thee a prince over my people Israel." So yeah, that's what He do. He would take you out of the dust and make you a prince, and that's what He did with Adam. So when we see He formed man out of the dust, but then we also read like a chapter earlier that He made He created man or whatever and female, right? So then that with the with the proper understanding, we can see that now after He created these men, now He's given Adam the understanding and wisdom to to govern himself and a nation of people, right? Because that's what the Adamites was. They were a nation of people, and then and they were like just like how like they were like the prototype Israelites, because in this day and age, the Israelites would be like well, they are God's chosen people, and but in that time the Adamites was, and Adam was just the man that was in charge of everything. As far as like he was the top guy of the Adamites. So let me see. Yes. All right. Well, I think y'all get the point. It's, it's let's go to chapter 3, right? So now it's another mess up. So now the serpent. So like I said, this is our book. So when somebody is conniving or they kind of move a little shifty or you can't trust them, we call them a snake, right? So it's the same thing when it says that the serpent, came to Eve and all that stuff. We got to understand ancient Hebraic way of speaking. And not just Hebraic way of speaking, serpent back in that ancient time, the word serpent was used as someone that was like very intelligent. It was like a way of explaining someone that has a lot of knowledge. So it wasn't like a southern snake or whatever how you say it. It was an actual person that was, very intelligent in the way of how they speak, and it was able to trick Eve into like following whatever he wanted her to follow. So it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. And that's another thing too, we don't gotta get it, but the Bible describes us as like sometimes it might describe us as beasts, it might describe us as trees, it might describe us as stars. It has different allegorical way of describing people. So we gotta understand that. Also. So, we just can't read over stuff and gloss over it. So we gotta understand that certain things is allegorical and certain things is not. So it says, so the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, meaning like out of all the nations that was, about during that time, these group of people, they were more wise, they was more developed, in their civilization. They had a little more understanding about the world that they was in, whether it was good or bad. They was, intelligent people. And and it said, and what it says was more subtle than any beast that God made. And it said unto the woman, yeah, have God said ye shall not eat every tree of the garden. So now the trees, right? The trees are different philosophies and cultures of the other nations, you know, and that's why I said like the Bible describes people as trees, as beasts or different types of animals, so it got different allegorical ways of explaining things. So now the trees are different philosophies and cultures. So God instructed Adam and Eve to like, yeah, okay, this is what we're doing. But you see these other trees and all that stuff. Don't it's cool to deal with them, but don't take in their necessary culture and all that stuff. But then he also said, all right, this particular tree, don't deal with this tree because then you would die, whatever, right? So now it's a certain thing that this nation of people that was practicing or doing that God didn't want them to be involved in. But the other trees, God said, okay, it's cool to deal with, but just don't deal with that one. So it says, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which in the midst of the garden, God has says, ye should not eat, neither touch it, right? So now she's telling them like, yeah, no, we can deal with these other fruits and all this stuff, but all these different cultures of people and all that stuff, but just that those particular people we shouldn't deal with. So that's what how it breaks down onto as far as like how we speak now. Because like I said, this is allegorical. So in then the serpent said unto the woman, ye surely ye shall not surely die, whatever, right? For God know the day that your eyes, what is it? For God know that day and that ye eat of, then your eyes shall be open and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil, right? So now that good and evil, right? Because you got to understand, at this point, Adam and Eve, all they know is good because their only job was to obey. God says do this, and this is what they do. So they didn't have an understanding of, just like a kid, if you train that kid right, in the perfect world, that kid is going to trust you enough to do what you tell them to do. And that was the state of Adam and Eve and the Adamites during that time when they was ruling, governing over the planet. But it was the set of people that was telling them, like, look, hey, so now, and what that tree of knowledge is, we can kind of fast forward. What that tree of knowledge is the knowledge of good and evil, is God's, for the lack of better terms, God laws, God's, God commandments. And so at that point in time, it wasn't given to them like far as the commandments to keep like that, because all they had to do was just obey. But then the fact that they started dipping into certain teachings about it, and now they are held accountable for, the different laws that they or customs that they want to take upon. And then if they, far as like, because like, keeping God's laws is just like America. Like America got laws. So, but then if you don't keep those laws, there are consequences. So, same thing with God's laws. If you're not keeping God's laws, there's consequences. So, at that point in time, all they knew was good. They didn't know evil. So once they started to try to cross over and try to, you know, implement this part into their day to day life, then they probably, didn't do certain, things in the proper, rituals in the proper, context and how it's supposed to be done, and they suffer for it. So then you get, let me see. Mm-hmm. So I'm so I'm jump down to 12, right? And the woman said, uh, and the man said, the woman who thou gavest me, gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. So now Adam is trying to blame it on his woman for setting him off when he couldn't, he knew what God, told him to do, and all he had to do was just stand on what he said instead of just following. He seen that she was going off doing a certain thing, so he should have just, stood on what he's supposed to, on what he's supposed to do. But instead, a lot of us, we fall, victim into that, and we end up doing what our woman want at the end, just to make her happy, right? So then, he says, and let me see, I'm gonna jump down to all right, I'm gonna go back up to I'm gonna jump back up to 8. So it says, and they heard the voice of the Lord. So now this is another misunderstanding too. Like, so they heard the voice of the Lord. So I think I'm not gonna get it though, but I think it's Jeremiah. It tells you that the voice of the Lord is the prophets, and it tell you and I think Peter tells you that everything that's written in this book is written for our learning. Even from the beginning or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So the prophets always been around, and God always spoke through the prophets. So when it says the voice of the Lord is basically saying like the prophets, that was around during Adam's time, that were giving them instructions and stuff, and and all that, and how to do carry out certain things. You know, they were speaking to him. So he heard the prophet speaking, and then so let me get back to it. So it says, what is that? 8. And I heard the voice of the Lord. The Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves in the presence of God amongst the trees in the garden. So now they want to hide themselves among the other nations. So it wasn't like the trees were so tall and wide that they can hide and stuff. Like I said, the trees represent people, nations, and other groups. So when they, heard, the prophet of God speaking and, probably chastising them and, or just, speaking on some stuff, and it probably hit, cut kind of deep. They got up out of there. They started trying to, be amongst the other nations, right? The other trees, so to speak, right? And where am I? And the Lord called unto Adam and said, where art thou? And he said, here I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who has told you that I was naked? So now, so Adam said, I'm naked. So now he knows he's naked because he knows that he's been like naked, meaning exposed, not naked like not having no clothes on. It wasn't like Tarzan and Jane of the Jungle, no bullshit like that. They were naked, meaning exposed, meaning, you know, like they were out in the open. All everything was about them to be known was known. They were open. So that's why he said he hid themselves, because they were naked, because they were following, obeying God and doing what the Most High wanted them to do to a certain point, and also teaching the other people to do so. But now that they start following this other way of life, and now they're exposed, and people can see the hypocrisy in them. So then, when the voice of the Lord, i.e., the prophet, was getting on them and talking to them, they felt naked, exposed, not naked and not having clothes on, but naked meaning they're, they ain't got nothing to say. I mean, you got me, you caught me, I'm naked. So that's why they got up out of there. So it says then, they sewed fig leaves. Hold on, get there. So it says, and as one of us, knowing, what to say? All right, so unto Adam, his wife, boom, boom, boom. So it says, so all right, I'm done down here. So it says, unto Adam, also his wife did God make coats of skin to clothe him. So what God did, He gave him a doctrine. So now the skins of coat is not just like I said, it's not clothing, it's not dealing with clothing at all. It's metaphorical. And the skin on the clothes is God gave him the proper understanding and gave him the wisdom, to keep them, straight, as he taking them out at the same time. But giving them the proper. That's what he clothed them in. Because at first they were just trying to grab different ideologies and different belief systems and put it together to try to fix themselves. To try to get back to what they once knew, their goodness. But now they experiencing all these different religions, and now they learning what evil is, because now evil is coming upon them because they done went so far away from the Most High, right? So now, let's jump to 4, right? Wait, no, we're gonna and hold on, prove that. Let's go to Daniel 12 real quick. I do got precept for that. Daniel, hold on, what up? So it says, and I heard a man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters, and he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him, live forever, that it shall be for a time and time, and when he shall accomplish and shatter the power of the holy people of these things, shall be finished. And many shall be made purified with uh, white and tried, and the wicked shall be do wickedly, right? So the point is basically like the clothing that he clothed them with was not like clothes; it was like doctrine and wisdom and understanding. So that's basically the understanding. So we're gonna jump to chapter 4, right? So getting to the whole Cain thing, because a lot of people say, well, where did Cain get a wife from, and how did all this stuff, right? Because like we understand, we read in the first chapter that you know God made it, created everybody at the same time. So it wasn't just Adam and Eve, because like I said, because Adam and Eve had other people around them. It was an influx of people. So, and we're gonna prove that. So so it says Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain. I have I have begotten a man from the Lord, she said, and bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a tiller of the ground, right? So so these are, so Cain and Abel, right? So now we're gonna jump down here. Um, so Abel, but Cain, but Cain, but unto Cain his offering was not respected, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So Cain got angry at God because he had a sacrifice, and God wasn't dealing with a sacrifice, because basically, you know, Cain was supposed to give like his best of what he had, but he just ended up giving like the scraps and certain things. So God wasn't dealing with the scraps. Just like most of us, somebody gave you some, you know, what they say, shake or something like that, you're gonna be mad or whatever, right? So so it's, basically like that. So then we're gonna jump down to So then it says, if thou doest well, this is 4 and 7. If thou doest well, uh, will thou not be accepted? So God is asking Cain, like, dude, if you do right, do what I ask you, you'll be accepted, right? So then, so we're gonna jump down to we're gonna jump down to 9. So and the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? So now, if you think about that, that's a kind of evil thing to say. Like, am I my brother's keeper? A lot of us, say that like it's, cool. But when you get into the heart of the phrase, it's like he like basically saying like I'm not responsible for my brother, but in reality, we're supposed to be responsible for each other. We're supposed to be able to look out for each other, be there for each other. But Cain, he was a murderer, and Cain murdered his brother. So Cain didn't have that same type of love for his brother, like how we supposed to have for the Black and Hispanic and Native American, how we supposed to love each other, and protect each other. Cain went against that. He was like, that's not my brother. Like, or am I my brother's keeper? 'Cause that's how we think at it. We like, I got mine, you got to get yours. Type attitude. Rather than looking at each other as fellow brothers. I would say love each other like you love yourself. We got to practice that more, right? So and what did I say? So then yeah, okay, then and he said unto, let me see right on it. So yeah, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother cried unto me from the ground, and now thou art cursed from the earth, which hath opened up her mouth to receive thy brother from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it will not henceforth yield her strength, and the fugitive and the vagabond thou should be on the earth. So now we're not gonna get into this, but yeah, excuse me. So we're not gonna get too deep in this, right? But like Cain, like the so-called Esau, the so-called European, who we call the white man today, has the same exact spirit of Cain today. He's has that murderous spirit, and he actually carried the mark of Cain. That's why he has that lack of pigment. That is the mark of Cain. But that's a whole nother story. But we ain't gonna get into that. But just gonna just briefly mention it. But so that is the mark of Cain, and he is Cain in the flesh. And he do got that evil heart towards his brother and towards everybody else. So and it says that so it says you will be since the ground will not henceforth her strength to you, meaning he's not going to be good at agriculture or farming. And when you look at their history, they're not great at farming. That's why they invent all these different chemicals and DDTs and different stuff to put on the plants to make it grow, and do all this engineering, genetic engineering to these flowers and plants and shit to get things to grow, or having synthetic foods and stuff like that, because that's their curse. Their curse is not able to produce any crops like that. That's why they brought us over here to America to do all the farming and shit for them, because they wasn't able to do it. So yeah, so where we at? So then just as a fugitive and a vagabond shall thou be in the earth. So they fugitives. That's why like they in every country calling themselves, Australian, European, South American, American, New Zealand, whatever you say they face that they're fugitives, they stole that land, they killed, they're vagabonds. They don't belong nowhere where you see them at, but in the mountains here. That's where they should be at, in the mountains, in the cracks, in the holes of the mountains. That's where they should be. They should be living in some cave somewhere, but yet they find themselves still in everything, taking all the little places that people live at, and taking on their nationality. That they're fugitives. That's what fugitives do. Fugitives change their identity. Vagabonds move from place to place. That's why they everywhere, moving from place to place, being the cancer that they is. So, so let's get down to jump down to 16. Or 15. And the Lord said, "Who? So behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face I shall be hid, and I shall be a fugitive, a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that find me shall slay me." So now, why would Cain say everyone that find me shall slay me if he's him, Adam, and Eve is the only three people on the planet? That don't make no sense. So it had to be other people. If Cain is afraid that he's going to get killed now, because since he killed his brother, he's worried about somebody coming to kill him. So it has to be other people. So that narrative that, oh, who's these people and how many people? So that lets you know that it was more than just them on the planet. If Cain is afraid for his life, if that's the case, Adam could have killed him, or whatever the case may be. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod. So now Cain left from his family and went to a whole nother city called Nod. So obviously it was people there if it's a whole nother city called Nod. And so once again, we know that it was more than one, person created or two people created. It was a boom of people that was created. Because how could Cain go to a whole nother place called Nod, right? So so we're gonna jump down to 6, right? We're gonna jump to chapter 6. So that's the Cain and Abel thing, right? We're gonna jump to 6, and so as we understand, like so they wasn't the only people. Yahweh Shai and the angels did the curating. Oh, another thing you can read in Peter. Peter tells you that 1 day is 1,000 years with the Lord. So when you hear about the 7-day curation, all that took place in a 7,000 year time period. It wasn't like it wasn't like 7 literal days how we experience on earth, because it tells you 1 day with God is 1,000 years. So creation day 1, creation day 2, that all took 1,000 years, to all transpire and all that stuff, right? So just jump to 6. So it says, and it came to pass, men began to multiply on the face of the earth. So now this is important. The verbiage, the word is important, because a lot of people get hung up on this chapter and they get twisted and they start following a whole bunch of different stuff. So it says, and it came to pass when men, that's the key part, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair, and they took them wives which they had chosen, right? So now people get hung up right there. Like, see, you're the sons of God, right? But we forgot that Adam and the Adamites are called the sons of God, the sons of Seth, sons of God. That like I said, because Adam was raised out of the dust, like it, stated, and became the sons of God, right? So let's prove that. Let's jump to go to Romans real quick. Romans 9:4, right? It says, who are Israelites who pertain of the adoption, the glory in the covenants, in the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises, whose fathers, who are the fathers, and of who are concerning the flesh Christ came. So when you get into the genealogy of the fathers in Christ, it all goes back to the line of Seth. So it'll be the Adamites. So the sons of God will be the Adamites, the sons of Seth, Adamites. And we are the sons of God. sons and daughters of God. Because it just tells you that who are Israelites who pertain of the adoption. So if you adopt somebody into your family, that is your now child now. So that's how we become the sons of God, because through the adoption of coming back to our heritage and our culture, we become back into the fold of being sons and daughters of God. But right now, because people don't understand that, they think this is religion, but it's our culture, it's our heritage. So that's what we need to get back to, our heritage and our culture, so we can return back to being the sons and daughters of God at the Most High. So let's get back. So go to Exodus 4 and 2. So, like I said, so we are the sons of God, and 4 and 22, and it says, "And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus said the Lord, Israel, my son, even my firstborn." So we are the sons of God. You said Israel, my firstborn. So when you see about, it says the sons of God, it's just talking about God's chosen people who he's dealing with, the people that he's, using to, implement certain things on the earth. So that's who the sons of God is. So it says, um, and the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years." You know what I'm saying? That's our time frame. In those days were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, right? So now, like I said, so we understand the sons of God. The sons of God are the Adamites, the people. So they, culturally, we're supposed to only deal with within our own tribe or within our own people. But then they start dealing with the other women of the other nations. So, because, they might, seen a couple, females that looked the kind of whatever, and they wanted to deal with them. So now, like I said, so the word giant, when you get into the Hebrew, the word giant is not talking about somebody like Yao Ming or something like that. Giant means like statue, like status, like, as far as like Oprah Winfrey, she'll be a giant in her industry. Michael Jordan, even though he a real giant, he's 6 something, but he'll be a giant because of what he have done. Lil Wayne or whoever you can think of, so it's like, so the word giant is not talking about height, it's talking about knowability, notoriety, right? And so that's what it says by. So now these men that's highly respected, now they having children by these, other women, these other nations. Oh, and like I said, so then they having, children by these other nations. So now the children that come from these people, since the men come from these different respective, groups of people, now the children take on that role of, yeah, my father is this or my father is that. And back then, people had a longer lifespan. So now they looking at these people and now they become gods to them, because, they become like, gods and giants and, all mystical to them, because like it just stated here that, man lifespan should be 120 years. But we also can read where people was living like, a few hundred years long, and 900, 800, all these different, amount of years that, we, won't see in this lifetime. So, and it tells you that, so just, so like I said, just go to Deuteronomy 4 and 22 real quick. It was 4 and 19. Cause like I said, so these men of renown, they became like, these, powerful rulers of their time. And it wasn't like I said, it wasn't like they was walking around like Yao Ming, Manute Bo, or nothing like that. They were just powerful rulers, you know, and it just so happened, like I said, compared to everybody else at that point in time, they did have a longer lifespan. So then people, kind of tend to kind of look at them because they was, either famous for whatever they was famous for. So now this is Deuteronomy 4:19. It says, "And unless thou lift up thy eyes unto the heaven, when thou hast seest the sun and the moon and the stars, and even all the hosts of heaven, should thou be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath given, has divided into the other, divided into the nations." So all these different nations, when they got they own gods, they own worshiping system. So these men of renown that people end up worshiping and putting up on a high, pedestal. Like I said, that's it's no different, because God, said that it was going to happen because He gave them different gods to worship. So as we just read right here in Deuteronomy 4:19, that he divided that to the other nations. But as for us, we're supposed to worship Him. So there's no such thing as like giant, and even we ain't got to get it, but like even like Anunnaki or the sons of uh Anu. That's what Anunnaki mean. Anunnaki means son of Anu, and Anunnaki was just a tall African, and his sons were tall Africans too. It's no different than, like I said, people like Manute Bo, Matumbo. They're tall Africans. That stuff exists. You know, it just so happened it was a tribe of tall African people. Because people, like I said, they was tribal. They breeded with each other. So it's not all that mystical and so deep, and the Anunnaki and all that stuff. The Anunnaki is just the sons of Anu, which are tall Africans. That's it. That's what the Bible says. Nothing mystical and spooky about it. And like I said, and the men of renown was just these famous men that became famous over time for whatever they have done. But then people end up worshiping them as gods, like we read in Deuteronomy 4:19. And like I said, so Yahweh Shah, the first creation, you know, and then him and the angels, they, you know, did the creation together under the management of Yahweh, the Most High God. Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve, they were not the only people. It was an influx of people all over the planet, or all over that area. Because Cain got him a wife, and he moved to a whole nother city and all that cool stuff. So it couldn't be just them. So when we start reading the Bible, and that's just one chapter, we only read, and we chapter 1, and we kind of skimmed through it until we got to about chapter 6. So when we break it down, we see that our understanding is that we get from the Christian church doesn't line up with the Bible says. So that's why it's important that we read and come back to our culture and understand that this is not a book of religion. This book explains our culture, our history, our heritage, what we were doing. Being an Israelite has nothing to do with religion. We're breaking away from religion. We're getting away from the restraints on the mind, as they say. We're coming back to our culture and our heritage and our way of life, which is told throughout this Bible. And that's why it's a concentrated effort to keep the information from us and keep us in the dark about it and keep us thinking that this is a white man's book. And we're gonna get into that too. We're gonna talk about who the devil is too. But I kind of went a little longer than I wanted to, but I want to say shalom to y'all. Hopefully, y'all got a little understanding on Genesis and the creation, and as far as like Adam and Eve and all these different misunderstandings that people have within those first few chapters of the book, and hopefully it can clear up any stumbling blocks that people may have. So with that, I say shalom. Until the next time, peace. All right.